All right. Matt, good to see you tonight for our tight end show. If you're watching this now and you're coming across it, you have not looked at the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver episodes on this metric, the STAR Index, please go back and watch those shows. Also, while you're at it, like and subscribe to this video. Matt, I'm going to throw it to you. We basically know at this point what's in the model, but for anyone stumbling on this video, can you please tell us quickly what metrics are put into the tight end model? And then a few of your takeaways, how the tight end model compares in its accuracy and how good we feel about it compared to some of the other positions.
Yeah. So if you guys have watched the other episodes by now, you should probably have a good idea of what goes into it. But to put it simply, our speed score, our burst score, our agility score, and our power score, that combined with multi-sport count, at different levels, height, weight, arm length, and hand size. I believe that is everything. And then to generate the speed scores and agility scores and so on, we look at track and field data, combine style testing, on-field mile per hour times, QB ball velocity for quarterbacks. So that's the basic overview. And for tight ends, in terms of what matters the most, like all positions, the model does love speed. Just all positions, that's going to be one or two, except for quarterback, I guess. Tight end size, especially, obviously does matter. As we talked about before, we use two separate models, one for predicting draft capital, one for predicting fantasy points. They're kind of split on a lot of things at tight end. A lot of the other models are kind of in agreement with a lot of things. The tight end, it's a bit of a shakeup, but the main things are speed, obviously, weight for tight ends. That's obviously a big deal. Multi-sport's kind of a toss-up. One of it loves it, the other one doesn't so much. Both do really take into account agility, though. Agility for these big guys definitely really does matter.
Okay.
So I would say that's the basics of the tight end model.
Okay, sounds good. And how do you feel in terms of, we've talked as we go along, like for quarterbacks, I am basically the baseline of my evaluation starts with the QB star index for sure. After, we've discovered this and kind of put it through the test. Tight ends, like how confident are you this really does matter, versus the other positions? Is this a strong signal we're getting with tight ends or weaker than the other positions?
No, I would say pretty strong. I think the quarterback, running back, and tight end are all pretty strong. Wide receiver, obviously going to be the weakest, as we discussed in last week's episode for various reasons. But, tight end is definitely one of those positions where I do think it accurately does capture, the athletic ability pretty well.
Okay. Well, as we do with all of these shows, let's bring up the NFL landscape through the lens of the STAR Index. And what we do each time is look at the top 15 tight ends by STAR Index and see, how many big hits do we have here. If you're listening on the podcast, I will tell you at the top, you've got Noah Fant. This is not a surprise. He blew out all the testing. Everyone loved him. He was a first-round draft pick, but unfortunately, the production in the NFL has not quite been there. Mike Gesicki, same thing. He was always an athletic freak, maybe not the best tight end. Then you have you have two rookies, Brock Bowers, who everyone seems to be pretty sold on, Ben Sinnott for Washington, who opens up, I think, as a backup, but given their depth chart, he may see some time this year. Will be interesting to see if he can play up this STAR Index. George Kittle, no need to really talk about him. Kyle Pitts, we know he's an athletic freak as well. Kind of in that Mike Gesicki mold at the moment. Athletic marvel, but has not put it together production-wise in the NFL. We've got Darnell Washington, who's very big. Then the big one, Travis Kelce, with a rating of 98. So all those other guys were like approaching 99 percentile. Travis Kelce's in at 98, which is great. And then any other surprises here, Matt, or guys who, when you look at it through this lens, you're like, oh, I might need to circle them on my dynasty league if they're sitting around on waivers, or maybe someone else you can buy low thinking they might pop.
These are all pretty established names. There's not really anybody you're buying low here. It's kind of, if they're not a big name yet, most of these guys are duds already, like Albert O, for example.
Yeah, Albert O. Jonnu Smith had his time in the sun. for a brief moment, but never really put it together.
One Jelani, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I think Jelani Woods, he's up here at 95.4. And Luke Musgrave's interesting to me. I mean, I don't think he did enough last year to be a massive acquisition, but I think, you could say, hey, he's got the athleticism, he's got the opportunity in Green Bay. He could pop eventually. Oh, and then down at the bottom, Evan Ingram, 95.3, very high score. And, took a while to put it all together, but had a great year last year and looking to be the Jaguars guy again in 2024. So that's the NFL landscape. Just to give you an idea, I mean, the best of the best, Travis Kelce is a 98. And I will say that's the top 15. It went down to 95.3 is all I could fit on the slide. Plenty of other guys in your typical top 20 or top 12 for fantasy. So you're talking about your Trey McBrides, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, Njoku, Dallas Goedert. Goedert was on there at 96.9, but they're all high 80s, like 88 or above, or in the low 90s. So that score does need to be there. Matt, what was the number in terms of first round pick average, star index, day 2 and day 3?
Give me 1 second. First round, day 1 picks are average score of 0.88. Day 2 draft picks at tight end are average of 0.79. Day 3, 0.65. And then UDFA's 0.43.
Okay. And for the graphic, I was basically just making it out of 100 instead of a decimal, but it's the same number. Change the decimal places just for those listening who might be somewhat.
Just looks cleaner the way you did it.
Yeah. But yeah, so all those other really good players, we're talking about everyone is in the 90s or high 80s. The only two that are routinely drafted in the top 12 this year who were not at least 88 or so is Jake Ferguson, and a little lower down the list is Dalton Schultz. And those two guys were the only ones who were like in the 60s or below. So most guys at least in the high 80s. I believe Freiermuth as well was like in the 70s or something. So he wasn't like super high, and he's also not super exciting. I think if you're drafting him, you're just hoping for some volume. He's not super exciting. All right. With that said, let's look at the college landscape. So who is next on the horizon? And number 1 here, 97.6, Carter Nelson going to Nebraska. And I believe he is a true freshman. Already caught 2 passes this week with Dylan Raiola. So that's very exciting because he's getting on the field. He's already showing he can do the things he needs to do to get on the field as a true freshman, and also comes with a high star index, tops in the college ranks. We also have Luke I think it's Lachey, or I don't know if it's Lachey, but 93.6 for him, and he's an Iowa tight end. That's kind of all you need to know, but also happens to have a high star index. Very productive. I think he's a slam dunk. Second round pick at worst, but probably talks his way into the first round. Anybody else here that you're excited about, Matt, for the current college landscape?
I love me some Benjamin Brahmer.
Okay.
Back actually in 2 classes ago when he was, we were evaluating him. Our star index or athleticism model was much different. We did not have Brahmer nearly this high. That changed in later versions, but super productive high school player. I'm hoping for big things out of him this season. Really like him a lot.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I feel like he's put on 20, 30 pounds already in college, because if you look at his like 24/7 profile picture, he looks like, honestly, a skeleton, and he looks way filled out.
He was like a 210 wide receiver, tight end hybrid type.
Yeah, so hopefully he will pop. Jaden Riddell, 5-star tight end. He's very exciting, going to Georgia, obviously. Colston Loveland, pretty high, 88.3, and he is Michigan's tight end. I think he had a good week 1. I think he had like 8 receptions for 80 yards or something like that. So already, making some noise on a production side. I think people like him for the NFL as well. Probably going to be a high draft pick. So Loveland passes all the check boxes as well in terms of production, potential draft capital, and backing it up here with the star index. I might have to take an L on Andrew Rappelier. I love that guy. He's sitting here at 91.7 on the star index. He just might not be a great tight end because I don't think he's recorded a reception now through his entire freshman year and week 1 of 2024. So holding out hope. The athleticism's there. Hopefully he'll become a thing. And so that will do it here for this edition of The Official. You've got your NFL landscape, your college landscape. We are then going to go later in this week and look at individual recruiting classes, some guys you might want to hold on to, and maybe guys to just go ahead and let go of because they're not doing it on the field. They also don't have the star index to back up some hope. So we'll see you next time on The Official.